So, a lot of you out there might be wondering, what is it like to go to a trade school? Is it worth my time and is it worth my money? I'm here with the owner of the Colorado School of Trades, which is a gunsmithing school, Ryan Lishner, and we're going to talk about exactly that. Ryan, thank you for joining me.
Awesome. How are you, Gavin? Thanks for having us today.
I'm really good. You know what I love is we're both hanging out in our shops. We both have lathes and mills right here. This is good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're both kind of in our happy place sitting here in machine shops. It's pretty awesome.
You know, it's funny. I get stressed out, doing invoicing and doing, running the business part of my business. When I'm chambering a rifle or threading a muzzle, every time I walk away, I feel better. It's kind of like feng shui for me. It's such a good feeling.
Absolutely. I mean, sitting here in our machine shop, like this is kind of the destination all of our students just can't wait to get to. It's by no means the culmination of our program, but it's kind of that pinnacle point where you kind of finally feel like a gunsmith. You're out of basics and you're just starting to put everything together and you're starting to machine things that are tangible, build guns, things like that.
Yeah, and what I wanted to do was frame this discussion from the perspective of, say, a graduating high school senior. You've been at school, you've talked to teachers, maybe your parents have been talking to you about career stuff, or even someone that's in a seasoned job that they're maybe not totally passionate about and they're considering a changing course. In either case, they've never seen the inside of a trade school. They might not know what to expect. Let's get into some of these questions that get frequently asked. Things like, what is it like to be at trade school? What are the, different kinds of things that are going to be going on a daily basis? What can I expect? When I get out of this program, what am I going to be able to do? So with all that in mind, where should we start?
That's a great question. It's definitely a huge question. I think, trade schools in general, but specifically CST, when someone comes on a tour here, it doesn't matter if we watch Ultimate Reloader, we watch anything that the School of Trades puts out, you check us out on our website, you have to come take a tour. I mean, we're a 20,000 square foot facility. When students come here, whether they're on a tour or it's day one, yes, we're a school and yes, we're here to teach, but we are so hands-on that we're trying to get you out on the lab floor in really an apprenticeship style of learning environment that our instructors are going to come around, they're going to help you, you can go approach them and they will again help you. And yes, we've got classroom time, but it's not the 4-year college where we're going to sit in English 101 and be bored to death. We utilize our classroom time for the really key pieces that you need to know, and you learn that theory and you come out on the floor and you run with it. It doesn't matter if you're in basics, you're in machine shop, you're in stocks, you're out working on guns, you're immersed in the environment. Even if you're in the middle of the program, you can kind of look back and see what the students behind you are doing, the students that are ahead of you, and just get a good feel for kind of what's to come. If you're a hands-on kinesthetic learner, trade schools are the place for you.
I think what's cool about schools like the Colorado School of Trades is different people have different learning needs and different learning styles. So, when I took the tour at Colorado School and when I was, talking to the students and hung out there for multiple days, I saw the difference between things like learning in the classroom, with lectures, learning how to run machines, learning the handwork, right? Sanding, polishing, that fine attention to detail, slow but really important background knowledge on working with wood and working with metal. The design and function labs where you're thinking about the theory and the mechanics, and then the walk-in gunsmithing repair jobs, right? Regardless of what kind of learner you are, whether it be, having someone over your shoulder showing you hands-on or reading in a book, attending a lecture, there's such a big variety, right? And I'm guessing each student is going to find their sweet spot, and then areas maybe that are going to stretch them a little bit too, if that is not their exact style, but you're going to kind of get it all.
That's absolutely right. I mean, and to kind of just answer a few of these points that you've highlighted, we run such a small student to instructor ratio that we get to know our students. Our students know us. we're just like you guys in your shop, that I have different instructors here that are into different disciplines and different facets of the industry, that students know that I go talk to this instructor for this type of firearm and that instructor for this machine operation, things like that. We get to know our students to where if we've got students excelling and they're being quiet and they're at their bench, we know them at a level that just says, hey, let them go do their thing. Don't go bug them. And we get to know the other students that maybe they're sitting there being a little bit quiet. And it's like, hey, it's time to intervene and lend a little bit more of a helping hand. At the end of the day, we try to teach autonomy. And it sounds really trite, but we preach to our students that, hey, we're not going to be here in 14 months. That it's how do you gather what you can while you're here and teach yourself to really look at things from a broad spectrum and think outside the box, to where maybe you haven't worked on that gun, or maybe you haven't done that machine operation, but you've probably done something that's awfully close to it, and just how to navigate those real world problems. And that's really where our customer gun shop comes into play. As students have hit halfway through the program, they're getting to where they're getting more and more guns in their hands. And we're not like the other schools where we just say, hey, here's a list of however many guns you bring those with you, and that's what we're going to focus on. We do some of that, but when you get into design and function, you go to our customer repair shop and you get the next gun in line. Maybe that's a cleaning job, maybe that's a new barrel and thread it for a suppressor and Cerakote it. You're doing real world projects, and some of those are going to push you outside your comfort zone. We definitely like to start to hone in on what our students are good at, what they want to specialize as they get closer to graduation, but we also want to expose them to a lot that, again, maybe you're the student that really excels and does great machine work. We're going to throw you some of that stock work or some of that restoration work from time to time to simply get you outside your comfort zone and expose you to that. And to kind of go a little bit further with that, you've been in the industry a long time, as have I, and we feel like a lot of students probably come here and say, hey, I want to go into this facet, or I want to go in this direction in the industry. That's not the case. You would be floored how many students come here because they've got an interest in firearms, in machining, in woodworking, and they find their way. They might think, hey, I'm going to go be the PRS gun builder, and they wind up walking out of here being the classic double gun builder or a custom 1911 manufacturer. And a lot of that, again, that's really due to the diversity of our program and what we expose you to.
Yeah, absolutely. The same thing happened for me in college. I went to mechanical engineering school, and I thought I was going to be doing mechanical engineering, and I went into software because once I started learning how to write code, it was a totally different direction for me. You know, fast forward to today, I'm working as a gunsmith for myself, and I've started my own shop, and I'm going to be employing other people. So that whole you never know where it's going to end is so true, and that's where having a good broad base of skills and knowledge will prepare you for that adventure that you don't know where it's going to lead to, right?
And that's exactly it. I mean, obviously, we sit here and we classically train gunsmiths, and we stay up to date with what the industry is doing and train on those points. But furthermore, we want our graduates to go be successful. And if that means you're operating a CNC machine in a door shop, but you're using all those skills that you learned and grew here at CST, that's all we want. You know, whether you go and continue on and weld, or you are working in a machine shop, and maybe it's in the medical industry, it's in the aerospace industry. If you think about the tolerances we work in, all of that blends itself together to where, again, go be successful, but those core skills are all established here at the School of Trades.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so can we do this? Can you guide, since this video is kind of about what to expect, can you walk me through the chronology? Let's pretend that you're joining the school today in kind of a fast forward sequence. Guide me through what that experience is like kind of quarter by quarter, right? You've shown up in town, you've got your apartment, you're showing up on day one. How is this going to pan out over 14 months?
Absolutely. So as you said, the school's broken up into quarters. So if we kind of put this into a nutshell, the program's 14 months long. So with our 4 quarters, you're going to start in basics. And basics it's not a rite of passage, it's none of that, but that's where we break things down. And we make sure that you understand going from a blueprint to a layout to a finished product, or a project, excuse me, and then the skills involved there. if you think about some of the projects we make and a lot of the tools we use in the gunsmith industry, if you're making those for the first time, we really don't care if your project looks like the blueprint. We care about, did you display the skills as a building block to get to that end result? So we do a lot of that, and we progress in basics. We incorporate refinish jobs both on metal and wood. And then basics essentially culminates in some time spent in our TIG welding lab. We're not going to teach you to be a pipeline welder, but we're going to teach you to, really start to think about heat treats and critical areas on firearms and where can we weld and where can't we weld. And then at the very tail end of basics, we do cycle of operations, where we run through the 8 major types of actions, and you have to list out per movement what moves, what's propelled by a spring, what it stops on. And that really becomes our troubleshooting foundation. If you're to think of an auto mechanic, it gives us that starting point to troubleshoot a firearm as a customer comes into your shop, and you can work a little bit more efficiently. From there, we move into machine shop. So machine shop's an entire quarter of school. We start out with machine terminology, techniques, and we grind lathe bits. If you think about, most of us run carbide lathe bits now, but when you start to understand the geometry and things like that go into a lathe bit, if you've got to go through and form your own lathe bits that in turn are going to be used on your graded projects, your level of understanding in that machine operation is just expedited. And in machine shop, obviously we're a little bit lathe heavy compared to what you're going to do on the mill, but if we look at what is done in day-to-day work in a gun shop, gunsmiths spend the majority of their time in general on a lathe. So we start with simple things, turning, facing, progress into threading. At the end of the day, all of our manual machining culminates in barreling and chambering a project rifle. So you're going to start with a pre-made rifle action, and then we do all the machine work on a barrel blank. Test fire that, and then move into our stock making lab. Before you leave our machine shop, we also spend a fair amount of time in looking at CNC machine operation, as to if you were going to go get a job simply as a machine operator and maybe progress up into a setup man, what does that take? And we run through a handful of projects to really just expose our students to both CAD and CAM situations and get them to where they're ready at an entry-level machine operator position.
Nice.
In our stock, in the third quarter, it's broken into 2 sections. So we start to button up that project rifle. So we first fit it to a synthetic stock, basically skim bed the action, free float the barrel, and then we take that same barreled action and we put that into a semi-inlet walnut gun stock blank. That's where the chisels, the gouges, all the fine fitting come out, and essentially we're trying to get that gun stock to look like it grew out of the ground around that barreled action. We're going to worry about things like pitch, length of pull, all that, so that this rifle fits you. At the end of the day, all of that gunmetal gets finished however you choose. If you're the classic purist and you want to polish and blue that, go for it. If you want to do something with a little bit more of a modern swing to it, we can do Cerakote. You call the shots there, it's your rifle. And that's yours to take. That's but really becomes a portfolio piece, an interview piece, and it's pretty awesome to still, be able to take to the range, take hunting, whatever you're into, the first rifle you've ever built really from the ground up.
So awesome.
From there, we spend a little bit of time in design and function 1 at the tail end of the third quarter. That's where you're starting to work in really that apprenticeship style and feel of the program, where you're going to the repair shop and you're starting down the road of customer repairs. We continue to build on that in the fourth quarter with design and function 2, where the gloves really come off, and it doesn't matter what gun comes through the door, it doesn't matter what repair operation comes through the door, you're the person for that job. You may only do a portion of it. If we sit back and look at, your typical general gunsmith, maybe they've got that machinist in their shop, maybe they've got that repair person in their shop, or that finish person. We start to break those projects up and get a little bit of diversity to all the students, so that, again, you're getting exposure to the broadest range of what's out there in our customers' hands as possible. At the very end of the fourth quarter is where we get into specialization. That's where you, the student, call the shot. Essentially, if it's legal, it's safe, and it's gun related, you can do it. If you want to build a 50 BMG, let's do it. If you want to prototype something, we can do that. If you want to focus on Cerakote, you want to go down the road of blueprinting Remington clone actions, we can do all of that. But essentially, we leave the students to their own device. They come up with these projects. We give them some guidance and see where they end up on those.
That is really cool. Now, one question I have is, all along the way, like let's say you're in stock making, or you're doing repairs, what does the interaction model look like with the instructors? If a student is well underway and doesn't need help, are they working more independently? Is it more like the instructors are kind of walking around making sure everyone's doing okay, going to grab the instructor when you get stuck? Like, what does that look like?
It's all of the above. I mean, our instructors, if you're sitting there and you're racetrack cutting threads, we're not going to come say, hey, how are you, right in the middle of that and mess you up. But we have our instructors that are up, they're visible, and they're just checking in. Hey, is everything going good? Do you understanding this? And with what we do, we want you to grow to where early on in design and function, we probably are going to give you a few more of those breadcrumbs as to how to fix that gun. And as you progress through that, we're probably going to make you start to rely a little bit more on some other aids out there, books, the internet, things like that. I don't want to, by any stretch, get the perception out there that, oh, you've got to come here and still learn off the internet. But there's still a lot of valuable resources out there that all of us in an everyday shop are still going to use. And again,
it's a tool.
It's a tool, and it's hey, where do you go to find that information? So again, you can stay efficient in what you're doing in your shop. And our instructors at the same point, if you've got just that really tough project and it takes an instructor sitting down with you for 30, 40 minutes to get through that, that's what we do. I mean, we, like I said, we're a small school, we get to know our students, and at the end of the day, if us sitting down with you and working on squaring an edge or putting back together a 686 that's a little bit tough, but at the end of the day, you, the student, understand how we got to that, that's a huge win for us. And I think that's really, that's an imperative part of what we do with in-person training, that we're here. We tangibly see what you're doing. And maybe your polish looks great from afar, but when we really look at it, here's those stumbling blocks, and how do we get past those to where when you pass that gun back across the counter to a customer, it's done properly. Yeah,
and they're enthralled, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so this is what I didn't have a lot of the way in my journey, right? Grandpa taught me how to run a lathe, but that was multiple little, spot sessions. And then I had mechanical engineering school. We did a little manual machining and some CNC. But I did have to do a lot of learning independently, and it took a lot longer. And I still have a lot of areas that I want to explore a lot further, right? So I definitely see the value in taking the time, dedicating the mind space, committing to a program like this, working through it, and then when you graduate, you're part of an alumni, right? You've got this group of people that have something in common. Do those people that graduate stay in touch much? With each other or with the instructors after the fact?
They really do. I mean, there's graduates that I honestly talk to on a weekly basis still. I mean, it is such a small, close-knit community that we really do all rely on each other. I mean, just today in business class, I referred one of our students that's looking to get into a really specific area of the industry to a former graduate from a couple of years ago. And it's just amazing how those graduates reach out. They were in these students' shoes at one point, and really foster that along and get them the information to get to where they need to be successful as well. So it's just neat that I think if you look back on the gunsmithing field in general, maybe 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. Whereas today, I think there's a lot more of us that there's a lot less smoke and mirrors. We're willing to get that information out and share it so we continue on what we're doing and what we're teaching for decades to come.
Nice. No, that's a really valuable resource to be a part of a community like that, for sure. So another question I'm sure you guys get a lot is, do you need to go to a school to become a gunsmith?
I think that's a great question. You're a prime example of someone, as you said earlier, that didn't go to school and is gunsmithing. And I think what we see here is our graduates are so much more rounded and ready to go as they hit the workforce than someone that just learns as they go. It's so much better to have those stumbling moments and those epiphanies here at school. And if you get into really the complex design of firearms, that's what our DNF theory classes teach. That we want to make sure that before we go work on these guns, we understand why internal safeties are the way they are, why were firearms designed the way they were, to where when we go machine on them or we go customize them, that we're still keeping the mechanics of that firearm safe. And I think that's really a paramount part of the industry that schools teach that self-taught gunsmiths really do lack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think too, to go a little bit further, you will get a level of diversity here at the school that just due to your skill set as you teach yourself is going to take you years to gain that you gain in a short 14 months here at the school.
Yeah. And I think this is something that some people miss about the value that you provide either as a small business owner or as an employee. And in some ways you can say if there's a job that you can learn in a week, that's going to be a lower wage, right? You're going to take home less pay. The more committed you are and the more trained you are, likely the more value that you'll provide. You'll be able to charge higher hourly rates in your own shop that you own, or command a higher hourly wage in a shop. So when I'm looking at candidates that I hire, if they've completed a program, whether it be a college degree or a certification or a trade school degree, that means something to me. It means that they have the patience and the persistence to follow through with something, and they also have that broad base of knowledge and skill, right? And so I see a lot of value in it personally.
And I think if you sit back and think about someone that's maybe thinking about going down the road of gunsmithing as a profession, and they're looking at gunsmith schools, but they haven't done much mechanically or much really in the shooting world, don't be afraid of it. Our program is adaptable to where we can take someone that's a little bit higher level, and yes, they may work through things a little bit faster in some instances than others, but we're geared to take someone that has never done any of this and get you to where you're employable by the time you graduate. But with that, you've got to commit yourself, you've got to be here, and you've got to really just sell your soul to the firearms world and take as much from this program as you can. The more interactive you are, the more instructors you talk to, the more you're going to get out of any program, not just ours.
Yeah, and what fun to be able to go through it with friends, right? Friends that you make at the school and people that you're learning with there, and talking about firearms after hours and all of that. Like you're saying, you just immerse yourself completely in this world of firearms.
And our graduates create such a network to help themselves out, whether it's, hey, you do bluing and I do machining and we can, network and work together, or just, hey, I've never worked on this gun and I know it's something you work on. Everybody's always passing information back and forth and just really working to where the end result is that of what the customer should always expect.
So how do you think about the question, is it worth the time and is it worth the money? Because, there is an opportunity cost of not working a regular job if that's the way you go through CST, and, the cost of the tuition and all that. Like when students or parents that are, coming for the tour have that question, how do you think of that and how do you answer that question?
That's a great question, and that's something that our admissions personnel face every day. A big part of what we do and are so successful in the industry is, yes, you have to come to work, but when coming to work doesn't feel like coming to work, that's worth so much. And when you truly enjoy what you do and you excel in some facet of this industry, again, like you're saying, you start to command those higher wages and those higher commissions for these projects. And yes, school costs money. To run our facility and have the instructional staff we have, our tuition's at a point that it is absolutely comparable with other in-person schools out there. But again, with what you're going to learn here and at the rate you're going to learn it, it's invaluable to try to circumvent that step in what a professional gunsmith is. Not just from a learning stance, but from a liability stance, a safety stance. Our gunsmiths are the ones that are out there getting it done, and just thoroughly enjoyed their time here in the program.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of alumni that speak very highly of the program, and it's been around for a long time, right?
It has. The school started in 1947, so we're continuing on. Obviously, as I've said many times before, we work to evolve this program and stay current with the industry, but yet teach those core building blocks that it takes to truly be a gunsmith versus an armor.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what would another frequently asked question look like about how the program works, or what it's like, or what you can do when you graduate?
Placement is a huge part. That's a question mom and dad are always throwing out there. It is hard to find a major manufacturer or a major shop that doesn't have one of our graduates in it. When you get into a lot of the precision rifle world, our graduates work or have worked in those shops. And again, you're going to get out of this program what you put into it. We've got a full-time person that helps with placement. We actually have to place 70% of our graduates. So again, that really starts to lend itself as to what we teach and what our measuring stick of your comprehension of these core things are, to where we know that we can place you and find a good fit for you out in the industry.
No, that's awesome. One of the things that you mentioned earlier was the business classes. Tell me about, because being able to fix firearms or build rifles or refinish stocks is one thing, but the abilities and the successful business component don't always go together, right?
You're absolutely right. I mean, as a whole, it's school. We have some theory classes, but I don't want to scare anyone by that or with that. Anything we're going to ask you to do on the floor, we're at least going to go in the classroom and hash through the theory, get that high level understanding, and then come do it with our hands. We try to get in and out of the classroom as quick as possible. Some of our applied gen ed classes, such as ballistics and business, we dive into these little bit more kind of niche complexities of our industry. Business class, we look at both going and working for an employer, but also a lot of our graduates want to go open their own shop. So we really go down that rabbit hole of what hurdles are out there and how do we overcome those. We go through, local and state regulations. And ultimately, we spend a lot of time on ATF compliance and how do you charge for jobs, what's fair, and how do you be honest, and how do you really set that expectation with the customer. And a lot of our students, as they first walk through the door, they don't realize what it costs to run a shop, what the overhead is, and why gunsmiths charge what they charge for a lot of operations. On the ATF front, we really take the approach that if we don't sit here and at least get you a ground level understanding of this, we're setting you up for failure. That we want to make sure that as we kind of put our stamp of approval on you at graduation, that you've got a core understanding of ATF compliance. We all realize that's one of those things that we've got to do in our industry, and historically gunsmiths were typically bad at it. But if it's presented to you in a very controlled setting, and we step through how you obtain a license, and then how you acquire firearms, how you administer 4473s and background checks, and then how you dispose of firearms, how you do manufacturer's entries, our students leave here with the knowledge of working in a gun shop for probably half a year to a year, to where, again, on that sales side of running a shop, they're pretty plug and play and comfortable with the different complexities of dealing with ATF.
Nice. Yeah, and ATF is a moving target. So you have to continually educate yourself as you go. Like you said, there's the state side and then there's the federal side. It's easy to get overwhelmed, with all that it takes to own and run a gunsmithing shop. So, the ability to go through a program where people are going to guide you through the process, get you educated, get you hands-on skills, that sounds really like a winning formula for me. If I was going to go back and do it all over again, doing what I'm doing now, I would definitely come to a program like CST. And I think that's my last question for you is, people are evaluating different options for gunsmithing school. how would you compare the Colorado School of Trades to some other options that are out there?
It's a great question. That's a question we're faced with every day. At the end of the day, we're never going to twist anyone's arm to come here. As you're sitting there trying to evaluate different gunsmith schools, find what's right for you. If you're the online learner, go do that. But our big thing is when we teach this at the level we teach it, with the student to instructor ratio we have, we feel like we're covering more than anyone else out there in the industry, and we're trying to expose you to as much, to where at the end of the day, our graduates are, and again, this is our opinion, but very well rounded for that entry level gunsmithing job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's really what I was impressed with when I came through and saw the fact that you guys have the Cerakote team coming out. You have a full automotive style paint booth. You've got CNC machines. There's all of the hands-on stuff, bluing tanks, complete machine shop for the students, right? Like, I saw so many things that I wish I could stay for a month or 2 or 14 months and really get hands-on with.
You bring up a good point there. In all the different facets we cover, our instructors go over these projects with a fine-tooth comb, and it's not so much to assign a grade, but it's to give those students that feedback that, hey, this Cerakote job looks great, but maybe it was not applied quite properly to where the touch, the feel, the texture is where it needs to be, or this stock finish is great, but here's still these sanding marks. That, if again, you don't have that student to instructor hands-on nature that we have with our students, that's something that just gets missed altogether in different programs out there.
So I know you're a humble person. I'm going to say a couple things about you because you run the school. So Ryan is a graduate of the program. I thought that was really cool that you were a Colorado School of Trades, student and graduate. I saw when I was there that you really, really care about the students themselves, right? Their needs, their success in the program, dealing with their families as they come through, that sort of thing. And then you're also just really invested in keeping the school up to date. You've put fresh blood into the program. It's got a legacy, but you're thinking towards the future and all that. So for any of you that are thinking about the school, just know that the team is run by someone that really is invested and really cares about the students in the industry and the knowledge and the technology. So thank you, Ryan, for doing what you do.
Thank you. I generally appreciate that. And I mean, I'm the little kid that gets to live my dream and play with firearms and work in a machine shop every day. And it's one of those things that if we don't pass it along, it's not going to continue. So that's what myself and my team are here to do.
Yep. So if you enjoy making things, if you enjoy restoring things, to me, restoring a finish on a car, I used to be in the painting industry, or a polyurethane wood finish, whatever it is, if you enjoy that kind of stuff, if you enjoy troubleshooting, if you enjoy just guns for the sake of guns, think about a trade school. And if you're looking at a trade school, definitely go and check out the Colorado School of Trades in person. I guarantee when you walk through the door, you'll have a perspective that you can't get even in this video. So, Ryan, if people want to know more, what's the action plan here?
The action plan, we've got a couple things. Schooloftrades.edu is our website. That's our best outlet to inquire, request a little bit more info, and have one of our admissions reps get in touch with you. And again, talk through questions you have. Those guys are here to help. If you need an hour of questions and just the what ifs of school, hey, I don't know where to live, I don't know about a job, call them. We're here to help. And again, inquire on our website, schooloftrades.edu.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate the partnership that we have. We're working really closely together, Ultimate Reloader and the Colorado School of Trades. And on that note, we're going to be going back to the Colorado School of Trades this year. And we got some really cool content that we're going to be filming there and stuff that we're going to be working on, a couple cool surprises. So make sure that you're subscribed with notifications. And also, after watching this video, if you're a CST graduate or if you're thinking about the program, drop a comment and let's discuss what your experiences were or the different questions that you have about the school. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us. I really appreciated and enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Gavin. I appreciate everything you're doing.
All right, that concludes this video, and And that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. If you're interested in custom rifles like what we build here on the channel or gunsmithing services, you're going to want to go to rifles.ultimatereloader.com and get on the wait list. If you want to learn lucrative gunsmithing like what I show here on the channel, including building custom rifles and Cerakote plus a whole bunch more, you're going to want to check out the Colorado School of Trades, schooloftrades.edu. Thanks again for watching.